Hello, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the southeast. Protesters chant seize their ships after P&O Ferries fire 800 seafarers. A father describes the impact on his son.
Their plans for yesterday was to get up, finalise their mortgage, get themselves a house, move on with their lives, to be told on a video conference call by whoever it was from P&O that their lives were now on hold.
Tory laws allow them to get away with it.
It comes as Dover's MP is confronted by angry demonstrators.
Also tonight, a community champion honoured for her tireless work on transgender rights. I'll have Joanne's story.
He had to accept who he was, who he'd always been, who he was born to be, and that was a woman.
And the most unlikely place to train for the next generation of pole vaulting champions, a hay barn in Lewis.
Good evening. Protesters gathered in Dover this afternoon as P&O Ferries faced a growing backlash over its decision to fire 800 workers without consultation and replace them with cheap agency staff. Lawyers for the RMT union may ask for a High Court injunction blocking the move.
And today, the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Bishop of Dover joined in the condemnation of P&O's fire and rehire tactics, calling them a sin. Our reporter Joe Caution is live for us in Dover. Joe, understandably, feelings are running very high there today.
Yes, that's right, Sangeeta. When P&O staff woke up yesterday, they went to work as normal. Today, they've been demonstrating and marching through the streets of Dover. In the last 24 hours, their lives have been turned upside down. 800 employees have a very different outlook today. And what was a sense of shock is now anger.
What do we want? When do we want them? Now!
Bright skies in Dover mask what has been a dark day or so for hundreds of seafarers. With the news of their sacking still raw, many marched through the streets protesting at what they've called gangster capitalism and a heartless decision by P&O Ferries to let 800 employees go on the spot. Andy's son worked there for several years.
Still lives with me with my daughter-in-law, and their plans for yesterday was to get up, finalise their mortgage, get themselves a house, move on with their lives, to be told on a video conference call by whoever it was from P&O that their lives were now on hold and that they couldn't go any further with their plans, and they had to phone the estate agents and say, sorry, but I've just been made redundant. And obviously devastating news for them.
Andy speaking on behalf of his son because P&O staff say they risk losing their redundancy package if they disclose details of their sacking to the media. For the same reason, we're protecting Gary's identity too. He was on board when they were told via Zoom call they were being let go. We're not using his real name.
The package that they had said that they'd put together, yet to believe it was in advance.
Have you had a package?
Yes, yes. But I mean,
they called it generous.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think so. I haven't got a job. I went to bed last night, woke up this morning, jobless.
Meanwhile, Dover MP Natalie Elphick was also there to support the protest, but instead was met by hecklers who said the sackings were because of Tory laws.
No, that's nonsense. It's bad business behaviour. Laws.
But Tory laws are something former Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell hopes can save jobs.
If they cannot find the legislation, in time for Monday, seize the ships on Tuesday.
A spokesman for P&O say they took the decision as a last resort and they understand the distress it has caused. But unions say this will be the first of many protests until strong action is taken.
Back to Joe. Joe, what do we know about when P&O's ferries will sail again?
Well, if you want to, Sangeeta, you can book a P&O ferry for Tuesday. The company say they want to get their ships sailing again in the next day or two because they're losing £1 million a day. Let's just move across the port now to talk about another ferry operator, DFDS. Now, they've said their thoughts are with all of those affected by the job losses in what is a big seafaring family, and say they're going to try and help wherever they can.
It's a very close-knit community in Dover. I think we all know people who work at P&O or have family members that work at P&O. So, our first thoughts are with them. And we will, do our best to offer as many P&O seafarers the possibility to come work with us as possible. We do have some vacancies available.
So P&O expecting to sail again over the coming days, but if unionists, former employees and politicians get their way with their calls to seize some of these ships, they won't be going very far.
Joe, live in Dover, thank you.
Well, up to 600 of the 800 seafarers fired by P&O Ferries are Dover-based. The redundancies and doubts now about the ferry operator's viability have had a big impact on the town, where P&O launched in the 1960s.
Tony Green has been talking to people in Dover and looking back at P&O's long association with the town.
When you're sailing to the continent, choose the company with the biggest name.
P&O Ferries traded on that name since this advert from the 1990s. But today in Dover, it's a name that's tarnished.
I personally travel with them a couple of times a year, and I've closed my account with them and never going to use them again.
To do that at a minute's notice to all those people that have given their life's work to that company is disgraceful.
One of my stepbrothers has just been made redundant by them. My dad worked for them for a good long time. My nan used to work in the offices, so they have had a big impact on the area.
Time and again, people in Dover have shown their resilience. But figures already show that this is the 5th most deprived council area in Kent, and that was before P&O laid off hundreds of crew members based here and severed a link between the town and the port that's existed for generations.
In the 70s we heard about steel mills being closed up north and the effect that that had on the town. Something like the loss of these jobs to Dover is of the same magnitude, I would say.
While union lawyers work out the legal implications of the mass sacking, the church has condemned its morality.
This is inhumane and totally unacceptable. They're treating human beings with little value. And we're saying, as the church, we are saying humans are of value. We do not discard them.
Work begins now to rebuild the local jobs market, but for the first time without a key cornerstone of this historic town. Tony Green, ITV News, Dover.
Well, let's talk to employment law expert Neil Todd, who's representing the RMT. Neil, I don't imagine many people watching this would think that the way the people have been treated isn't awful, but I guess the question is it unlawful? What's your view?
Our view would be that it is unlawful and it's an outright breach of several provisions of employment legislation. So yes, we do think that the way in which they've acted is unlawful.
So what's your estimation then? Did the company know that and rode roughshod anyway, or they weren't quite aware of the repercussions?
I'm absolutely sure they will have taken advice on it, and they will know themselves that they're in breach of employment legislation. I think it's a calculated decision by them. They offer the workers sums of money that represent the breaches of employment legislation that they know they've made. And they hope that the workers will accept those sums of monies and will not pursue litigation. So it's a sort of calculated decision by them.
OK, so what happens next? What action do you envisage you and the RMT taking?
Well, at the moment, we're considering all potential options up to and including potential injunctive proceedings in the High Court. So nothing is off the agenda at the moment. But we're having detailed discussions with the union before we make any final decision.
I guess P&O would say they had to act in some way. They were losing money. This was almost inevitable. Is the problem with what they've done or the way they've done it, or both?
I mean, it's very much the way they've done it. Trade unions deal with companies every day who have financial difficulties, but to sort of treat your workforce in this way, where there's been absolutely no consultation with the unions, no consultation with the employees themselves, and to make it an announcement on the day in question, simply telling you that your employment's being terminated with immediate effect is extremely callous and not something we see very often.
And Neil, just very quickly, if you would, what is the best scenario now for the 800 people affected, in your view?
Well, the best scenario would be if the company would reconsider their position and enter into a consultative process with the union and explore options as to whether those jobs can be saved.
OK, Neil, we have to leave it there, but thank you very much for talking to us on the programme.
No problem at all, thank you.
Well, the government say their lawyers are looking into whether any laws have been broken. They're also urging P&O Ferries to get round the negotiating table with the unions. Live now to our political correspondent Phil Hornby. Phil, there seems to be lots of anger from the government, but not much action.
Yeah, that might be changing soon, Sangeeta. We've heard that the union's lawyers have been busy. Well, the government's lawyers have too. And the business secretary this afternoon has sent an absolutely furious letter to P&O Ferries, pointing out that there are clear processes that companies must go through when they make large numbers of people redundant. And failure to comply with these obligations, says the letter, is a criminal offence and you could face an unlimited fine. Why do P&O Ferries think the rules do not apply to them, says the business secretary. And today, for the first time since yesterday's news, we heard from the transport secretary.
I understand that companies, cannot stay in business if they make a loss. I don't understand why employees who've been loyal, worked through coronavirus, P&O Ferries, who've taken furlough money and other money through the COVID, would then turn around and treat their employees like this. I want to see them get back round the table and sort this out properly.
Phil, we've seen the demonstrations and protests in Dover today, and there's been another one near you.
Yes, a protest about half a mile from here, outside the headquarters of DP World. That's the parent company that owns P&O Ferries. Lots of protesters outside this afternoon chanting. We heard John McDonnell say it in Dover, didn't we? Seize the ships. That seems to be the message the union want to get across. And I spoke to one of the protesters there today.
I'm a seafarer myself, and these jobs today, my job tomorrow perhaps. It's not right. British Merchant Navy has been in decline since Thatcher. Since Margaret Thatcher destroyed the British Merchant Navy, all we've got left are ferries, and now these people are taking that away.
And Labour tonight are saying that P&O Ferries' licence to operate should be suspended until this matter can be resolved.
Phil, in Westminster, thank you.
Let's turn our attention to other news now. And the former Met police officer from Deal who murdered Sarah Everard has been charged with 4 counts of indecent exposure. Wayne Cousins has been accused of exposing himself multiple times in January and February last year. The 49-year-old, who is serving a whole life sentence, will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 13th of April.
£125,000 worth of drugs have been seized across Sussex. Police joined a national effort to target county lines operations. 30 arrests were made, but police say there are 42 county lines still active in the county.
An appeal for information has been launched after a large fly tip forced a road to close for a week in Folkestone. The District Council is investigating the incident in Churchill and is keen to speak to anyone who recognises any of the distinctive items.
Keep up to date with all of our stories on our website. Time now for the next part of our series, celebrating people who go above and beyond to help others in their communities. Today we're meeting a woman who spent much of her life hiding who she really is, but is certainly making up for lost time.
Yes, Joanne Monk is now a champion of transgender rights and a passionate supporter of gender equality. She speaks all over the world, but I went to meet her a little closer to home. I'm here in Stenning in West Sussex to meet a woman who says it took her 58 years to become the person she was always destined to be. She reached a particular low point back in 2014 when she contemplated taking her own life. Since then, she's turned things around, and earlier this year she was awarded an OBE for services to transgender equality. She's come back to the local grammar school to talk again to the young people she first inspired a couple of years ago.
First of all, it's lovely to see you all again. You're all amazing. I think it's over 2 years since I last saw you all.
Joanne Monk doing something that 8 years ago would have been unthinkable. She's talking about herself openly and honestly, and she's rightly proud of her latest achievement.
At the end of 2020, I got a letter in the post, beginning of December, brown envelope, tax office. Don't open it. I did open it, and it was a letter from the government. We are pleased to inform you that you have been recommended to Her Majesty the Queen by the Prime Minister for an OBE, and you are some of the first people to see it. Now I think of myself as a very successful and highly honoured woman, but it wasn't always like that. David, which was my previous name, was born in 1955. His mother had a dressing up box. He used to put them on and just wish he'd been born a girl. But the word transgender wasn't in the dictionary in those days, and there was no comprehension of its meaning or its understanding. He was bullied constantly at school, but how would he tell his parents? How would he tell society? Even in the sort of late 1970s, early 1980s, it wasn't really there, and he was spending his whole life trying to validate life as a man.
David's attempts to validate his life as a man saw him take jobs perceived at the time as masculine. He became a volunteer firefighter, then a special constable. He got married and had twin boys, but he knew deep down that he was living a double life. His second wife died in the year 2000, but it would take another 14 years for things to change.
In 2014, David was really struggling with life and who he was and who he should have been, his destiny. And he went and sat on the edge of Beachy Head. He was pulled back from the edge by 2 police officers, very, very compassionate, very understanding. And a week later, he came to the point where he had to accept who he was, who he'd always been, who he was born to be, and that was a woman.
I mean, for much of your life, for 58 years, a lot of it was spent hiding, I guess, who you really are, really were. Now, for Joanne, life is the total opposite. You want to tell people about yourself. You want to share your story. You want to help them if you can. It seems to me that that is what your life is dedicated to.
Most definitely, yes. I think because of the struggles that I'd gone through, I didn't want other people to go through the same. One of the talks that I did was here at Stenning Grammar School to pupils, talking to them about my life and telling them that it's okay to be who you want to be.
What point in your life did you realise this is my time to tell everyone and it's not a secret to me anymore?
Having lived a life of unhappiness, of trying to validate my life as a male, I felt that I couldn't go on. And
it's really interesting to see how hard it is for them to come out or things, and how easy it just should be. Like, you shouldn't have to feel like you want to kill yourself or something. It should just be an easy thing, and people should accept who you want to be.
It's been brilliant to see her again. We started our own pride group for students who wanted to get together, meet at lunchtimes. They called themselves the Turing Group. They self-organised, and it's just been a fantastic opportunity for her to meet again the students that she met a couple of years ago.
I thought everything she's done is amazing, and the fact that she's won all these awards and she's helping all those people out there who have all these worries and are going through all this hate crime and these horrible things that they don't deserve just for trying to be who they are is amazing, and it's an inspiration.
I have achieved things in the last 6-7 years that I would never have dreamt of, and I'm I'm so happy now, and I think that's the whole point of it. By accepting my destiny, I overcame the darkness and moved into the light, and it's been an incredible journey.
Joanne, I just want to say thank you for talking to us today. That was absolutely incredible. Just amazing to hear your story. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Matt.
An important story to share, and it will help others, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. And if you know of someone who deserves the title Community Champion for whatever it is that they do that's brilliant, let us know. We'd love to hear about it. The email address, as ever, ITV News Meridian at itvnews@itvsorry.com.
And the ITV Evening News Hour continues here at 6:30. Here's Charlene White.
Anger at P&O Ferries and accusations of inhumane behaviour.
It is utterly disgraceful, and people will be shocked at what has happened.
As protests take place at ports across the country, the Archbishop of Canterbury brands ill-treating workers a sin. Russia ramps up attacks targeting previously safe areas in Ukraine where many have sought sanctuary. COVID infections rocket in all parts of the UK, so could another booster slow the spread? And Rachel Blackmore becomes the racing queen of Cheltenham with victory in the Gold Cup. All those stories and so much more at 6:30.
Now, Andrew is here to talk all about the sport. Good evening. What have you got for us?
Good evening. Well, we start with a big match and a big question, because could this be the weekend Gillingham move out of the League One relegation zone? They've been in the bottom four since November, and when manager Neil Harris took over last month, they were 10 points from safety. But now they've cut that deficit, and only goal difference is keeping them below the dotted line. Tomorrow, though, the Gills have a tough match, with promotion-chasing Sheffield Wednesday bringing thousands of fans to the Priestfield.
I love it when the ground's full, when that away end gets packed. It's a good atmosphere, isn't it? And obviously our fans are always brilliant, no matter how many away fans there are. The home fans are always great, and away when we go places, they follow us in great numbers and are in full voice more often than not. So we'll look to put in a good performance for our fans, and we'll hopefully keep their fans as quiet as possible, and hopefully we'll get a positive result.
Elsewhere this weekend, no match for Brighton, and the international break means they don't play again until April the 2nd, when they host bottom of the table Norwich. Now, this weekend, the first ever Iford Estate pole vaulting championships are being held near Lewes. And what makes it all rather unusual is it's taking place inside a farmer's barn.
Small businesses and local teams, the heart of our communities. eBay sponsors ITV Regional Sport Reports.
The Iford Estate, 3,000 acres of mixed farmland within the South Downs National Park. Home to a herd of cows, the production of cereal, and a barn housing the next generation of pole vaulters. With the barn only used a couple of months a year to store corn, the pole vaulting coach in Lewes saw an opportunity and was delighted his request was accepted.
It's not the easiest sport to do indoors. You need a specific type of facility, mainly one that's very, very high. And we have youngsters here who will be going to English championships, UK championships, and even European and world championships. So out of this barn will come champions.
We visited during the beginners session, and the estate manager told me, having watched them over the past year, he's been amazed how quickly the vaulters have developed.
I was slightly sceptical at first, but once you see them in action, and actually just the skill and dedication of the coaches and the vaulters, it's just a really great thing to do.
Do you fancy giving it a go yourself?
Well, I'm not sure there's a pole strong enough for me.
The inaugural Iford Estate Games take place this Sunday, pole vaulters from across the region visiting the grain barn. For some, it'll be their first ever competition in this sport, having been members of Lewes Athletics Club.
I was sprinting and I said, do you want to come and just jump a bit and have a bit of fun? And we had like a selection of groups that all came along. Me and my friend came along, and we got told it should be fun. We started jumping and we got to quite great heights quite quickly.
I mean, it's really nice that it isn't all about skill. It's all it's kind of, you have to just believe that you can actually do it, because otherwise it's all just going to mess up. It's quite nice.
You need speed, gymnastic ability and strength to excel. Oh, and a friendly farmer can be handy too. Fantastic facilities there. Let's hope they have a fantastic weekend.
And Andrew, you have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you very much.
OK, as you can see, Holly is with us now. So, Holly, is it me or was it warm today?
It was certainly getting a bit warm, wasn't it? In fact, the warmest day of the year so far, 17.5 degrees at Wigenholt. Although parts of the east coast were exposed to the easterly wind, were only up at about 10. So it really depended today where you were. But yes, officially warmest day of the year so far. Also quite a nice day because we had some lovely shots of the worm moon from last night after our little appeal. So I thought we could take a look at a few.
So what is one, Holly? We need to know.
Okay, just quickly then. So the worm moon is just the name for the full moon at this time of year. So the March full moon, and it's so called just because the soil is warming up at this time of year and your earthworms are starting to make an appearance. So gorgeous shot here. This was from Alan Thorpe. Real lovely detail, I think, there on that moon.
Oh, good.
Rising over the chimney tops. This was sent in by Peter Norman in Hastings. Got another lovely shot of it, looking massive, doesn't it, there over the South Downs. And finally, over Brighton Pier, this is this morning as it was setting, sent in by John Stubbs.
Very nice. Now, very quickly, Sunday equinox.
Yes.
Keep it understandable for me after the back of yesterday.
Equinox. So this is the more famous one. Many people say this is the start of spring, although I say it's the 1st of March. But many people say Sunday starts spring, and it's when, on average, roughly, most of the world gets 12 hours of day and night, although as discussed yesterday, that's not actually quite accurate. But effectively, Sunday's the equinox, and for many people, the start of spring.
Let's not relive yesterday. Let's just get the forecast. Here it is.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Lovely bright skies for today and more of them to come for tomorrow, but we have got quite a brisk wind around for tomorrow. Then into Sunday, a bit more clouds, still some spells of sunshine, a cooler feel and the chance of a few showers. The bigger picture then shows high pressure dominating, but we have got quite a squeeze in those isobars, hence the breeze. Some cooler air feeds our way as well, and this is the feature that affects us on Sunday, bringing that risk of some showers before some milder air heads our way as we push through next week. At the moment, starry skies, but with quite a breezy wind, especially into the coast. That stops our temperatures falling as low as they might otherwise do, but I couldn't rule out a touch of frost perhaps on the grass in some of the colder spots. We should stay mist and fog free though, I think. As we head into tomorrow then, lots of sunshine like today, but I do think this wind will be brisker, especially where you're exposed to the easterly, so around the coast. And here we tend to find the lowest of the temperatures. Inland valleys get a bit higher, but across the board, I think numbers will be lower than we've seen for today. So the chance for a few showers on Sunday, although a lot of the day hopefully dry. After that, though, turning warmer and settled as we head through next week.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
All from Dover now with Charlene White in the ITV Evening News.
From us for now, that is it. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.
See you Monday. Bye-bye.